All right, welcome back to episode 2 of the Fantasy Hub. This one's going to be recapping the draft that happened this last weekend over at my house. Me and Crow are going to kind of run through the teams, going to break down each team individually, not too in-depth, but we're going to go over our MVPs of it, people that we think stood out, and we'll kind of explain a little more about what MVP means to us when we get to that part. Some strengths of each team and some weaknesses of each team. And then finally, we'll finish it off with our best teams and worst teams that we feel. Before we dig too much into that, just want to send a special shout out to everybody. The draft weekend was a huge success. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. Probably be the last time we have it over here at this place, but it went well and it went relatively quickly too, all things considered. So, yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Big shout out to Becky for saving the day and being auctioneer.
Thank you, Becky.
Cody and Courtney for helping with sticker duty as well. And then Jeremy and Vice, good job with the dollar bills, with the finances. So,
yeah, that was very helpful.
Krill, anything you want to say before we jump in?
I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know some of our friends drove out from Wisconsin. Luke came from Madison. It's cool to get everybody together on the same day, especially 14 teams. Thank you, everybody, for coming on time. It's just good to have everybody. It was good to have fun. So, yeah, let's kick this off. I think the first team we're going to start with.
One other thing that I'm going to do beforehand, too.
Oh, yeah.
I have this here. I don't know how the recording's going to go, but this is the new trophy.
It's huge.
Here.
Looks nice.
And if you look, you can see all the, maybe this will work, maybe it won't, all the teams and names engraved. So next time you guys are over,
that's sweet.
You'll have to check it out for sure. It just came in. So, yeah, we got ourselves a trophy. So whoever wins this year will be able to add their name to the Legends Club. So, pretty cool. Alrighty, well, yeah, let's start by going in and breaking down some of these teams. So, kind of as mentioned, one thing that me and Krill did is we ran through all these teams, and we picked an MVP for each team. Now, MVP to me is not necessarily the best person on the team, but it's the person, player, or whatever that will be most important to this team's success. What will take this team from middle road and catapult it to the top. So that's the way I was looking at it. Not sure if yours was similar or not, Krill. But
I was kind of looking through the roster, and it was the first name that kind of jumped out at me that were either received at a really good value and that I think that could become an unknown star, or kind of like you said, that could take that next step, a player that could take the next step in the NFL and fantasy circles and become from a good player to a star and possibly win you the league. That's kind of how I looked at it. So we did not tell each other.
Yeah, this will be the first time either of us know who we're picking, so that'll be kind of fun.
Right. We didn't discuss this. We didn't tell each other who the MVPs were. We kind of just did it so we could enjoy it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be hearing Krill's reveals, and you'll be hearing mine for the first time, just like you guys. So, we're gonna start it off. I'm just rolling through the matchups the way they come up. So naturally, we're not choosing my team because it's the best. We're choosing it because it's first. So we'll start with my team. Rather than me talk about my own team first, Krill, why don't you go ahead and kick off and talk about it?
Okay, so we got Getty. My MVP for Mike's team is gonna be Amari Cooper. I'm very high on him. I'm very high on Carr. As you guys listen to the news or podcasts, they talk about Cooper play with an injury. He's coming back this year for fully healthy. News from camp has been that he's just been fantastic. Carr looks great. Mike got him for around $30. I think that's a really good value. And I think if Cooper has a great season, I think he could really be a star for Mike like Antonio Brown was for Vice last year, and just keep pushing him to the next level and winning games and winning the championship. So,
you want to go straight into your strengths and weaknesses too, or do you want me to do my MVP?
No, I think
We'll talk more about the MVPs and less about strengths and weaknesses, but MVP will be the big part of it.
Yeah, and so I think Michael's strengths are definitely his wide receivers and tight ends. You know, he's got T.Y. Hilton, he's got Amari Cooper, he's got Rob Gronkowski, and then on the bench he's got Kittle, the San Francisco tight end. I think Kittle could be one of the sleeper tight ends. We know that Gronk has injury history, so if he gets hurt, Kittle could step up. Or if Gronk is having a great year, Kittle's having a great year, they could swap into the flex, or Mike could make a trade to get more running back depth, which brings me to his weakness. The starters are very good. McCaffrey, only going into his second year, but he's proven that he is a great pass catcher and a good running back. Marshawn Lynch, I'm not a huge fan of him, but he's had a great offseason. I just think if he gets a little bit more depth at the running back position, he could have a great team. But Ballage and Anderson, just at this moment, are not cutting it for me.
All right, so I'll go through my own team. I think my MVP is going to be Andrew Luck, because he will either make or break this team for not only himself but also for T.Y. Hilton. If Luck is and I don't know if he will be, but if Luck is healthy and he has a good year and he has his arm strength back, being able to pair him with T.Y. Hilton will be huge. Like you combine those two together for less than $40. And if you have a top-end quarterback and a wide receiver one, that will make a dramatic difference. Strengths, I agree with Krill. I have tight end, Gronk smash, and my wide receivers. My weakness would be my running back depth. Need to look to add some of that. If I can just get one guy, that would kind of help a lot. But, there's a lot of injuries in the regular season. We'll see what shakes out. We'll see what happens. All right, next I'll go into Spitzer's. So my MVP for Spitzer's team is Alex Collins. I think, depending on how this guy does, he has the opportunity to be a workhorse for that team. They say they don't really like Kenneth Dixon. Buck Allen is nothing more than a backup, a guy who will catch some passes, but maybe...
Well, I don't think Nick likes Kenneth Dixon either because he just dropped him today.
Yeah, no, and we'll see if anyone picks him up. I debated about it, but I don't know. But yeah, Alex Collins, I think, has that job secured, and I think he's very talented. People don't like him because he's a Ravens player, and Ravens are kind of unattractive, and who wants a Ravens player? But he may be able to produce a lot because he produced when they gave him opportunities last year. So I think Alex Collins has the chance to break out and really catapult his team, which he needs because he's got a lot. Like, if we go into depth, his strengths would be his wide receiver, Odell Beckham, and then his running back depth. He has a lot of viable options, but his weakness is that he lacks the star power. So he doesn't have like those guaranteed, like, oh yeah, I have Gurley or Bell or somebody like that. He doesn't have that. So he's going to be having to debate who he wants to start each week, which will be difficult. And if a guy like Collins can blow up, I think that'll make his team a lot better. He might have a tough time winning it all. He might need some injuries. I don't know if I quite see that with this team, but guys like Collins and Lewis really need to step up for him.
For Spitzer's team, my MVP that I chose, I actually thought about this one for a little bit, and that is Josh Gordon.
Oh,
I think that is a great choice, because if Josh Gordon gets back to the receiver that he is destined to be on a good Browns offense with Tyrod Taylor and puts up the numbers that he put up years ago, him and Odell Beckham are going to be fantastic. That is also going to help his running backs. So for strengths, he's got a lot of running backs. He's got like 7 running backs.
He does.
If Gordon comes back and plays great with Odell, that'll give him time to find that running back. Because right now, my weakness for him is he does not have a RB1. Now, Mike believes that Collins could turn into the RB1. At this point, he's not an RB1.
No.
So my guy for him is Josh Gordon. So, yep.
Yeah. So next, we're going to talk about Nick and Travis' team. We're just going for matchups here, so we're just kind of pulling them up as they go. There's no specific order to why we're talking about each team. So if we're talking about Nick Seacock's team, my MVP for him is Carlos Hyde. I think I like Carlos Hyde. I had him last year. He's a talented guy, and I mean, if you look at some of his preseason games, yeah, it's preseason, but he's done pretty well. Hugh Jackson wants to throw. He wants to run the ball. Tyrod Taylor, if he stays healthy, whenever you have mobile quarterbacks, they always tend to help the running backs. And if defense is going to be the strength of the Browns this year, and they may try and take a more slow ground and pound approach, if they do that, Carlos Hyde could be a guy who gets 20-plus touches a week.
He's looked good in preseason.
Yeah, he was a guy I wanted to. The concerns with Hyde would be Chubb, and if they end up trying to throw it more, trying to get Juice, Landry, and Josh Gordon more involved, then, we'll see. But Nick has a very solid starting lineup team. If he can get Hyde to blow up, because Hyde may, by week 6, week 8, Hyde may not even be relevant. He could, there's a big swing in as far as what he could do. But if he takes the upper side of that spectrum and blows up, and you had him with David Johnson, that's a pretty dangerous team. His strengths is that he has a really strong starting core. He's got, a good starting lineup that's there. His weaknesses to me would be his depth and his injury riddle. There's a lot of injury concerns with guys on his team. Mariota's had injury issues. David Johnson's had injuries. Keenan Allen's had bad injuries. Reed has had bad injury issues. So there's and his depth it's not that good. I don't know if there's many of those guys I'd want to roster, like Doug Martin or Theo Riddick. So Alshon Jeffrey's another guy on the team, big injury issues. So he's got to hope that he can avoid the injury bug. But if he does, his starters might be able to carry him enough. So that's my thought about Nick.
For Nick's team, my MVP for him is Marcus Mariota. I actually think he's going to have a good year. They've given him a lot of weapons, adding Deion Lewis, a really good receiving core, one of the deepest receiving cores in the league. Walker, they boosted his defense, and he's not going to be hurt, obviously, to start the season. I think last year he also played hurt, limped around a lot, and hoping that he can go back to his running ways and use his legs. If he can develop into a dual threat like that, I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for Nick. My strength for Nick was similar with Mike's. I think his starting lineup is super solid, but it's really only on paper it is solid. They have to really produce. His weakness is he literally has one receiver on the bench, literally one, and that's Jeffrey, who is right now hurt and is probably going to miss the first couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, he probably won't be back till week 4 or so is what I'm hearing for Jeffrey. So.
Right. So that's it. He's got literally no one on the bench, no sleepers for receivers. If his wide receivers stay healthy, if Jeffrey comes back strong, then that's going to be great. But the injuries and I think receiver depth is the weakness for me for Nick.
Yeah, and there's not much upside with those running backs either. Like, everybody knows what Doug Martin is. You know what Theo Riddick is. You know what Duke Johnson is.
I think we spent a lot of time on Nick.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Sometimes
Bye, Nick.
A little more. It's all good. By the way, I'd like to point out that at this point, me and Crow don't have a single matching MVP. So we'll see if that changes. And it may change here because with Travis's team, I had a tough time picking just one. Because Travis's team is so stacked and loaded, I have 2 MVPs for him. Yeah.
Wow.
2! Because you can look at it like this. Either, hey, his team's so good he has 2 MVPs, or, hey, his team needs so much help he needs 2 guys to break out to be good. I don't know. You interpret that, not me. So I got 2 guys. I won't spend too much time on either one because maybe Crow will talk about them. But I got Mixon and Jordy Nelson. Really quickly, these are guys who he needs to blow up and do well. Mixon might be Krill, so I won't spend too much time. I don't know if it is or isn't. But that...
It's Justin Tucker.
What's that?
It's Justin Tucker.
Oh, it's not...
No, it's not
okay.
Tucker. It's not Tucker.
Okay.
Sorry, Spencer.
The Cincinnati Bengals offense was pretty atrocious last year. They didn't run the ball hardly at all. They're going to run it more. And Mixon will probably get more carries because he's not a rookie anymore. But that offensive line is still shit. So they really need that to switch around for him. And then Jordy, I personally think Jordy's done. I think he's washed up. I think he's got nothing or very minimal left. He's a Brandon Marshall. He's someone like that just floating around that's kind of hanging on there, but doesn't have much upside left. So we'll see. I don't expect – I don't know if I'd pick up Jordy Nelson who's in free agency at this point. So But if he can come back and somehow be a wide receiver 1 or more realistically a wide receiver 2, that'll help his team a lot. Travis's strengths are the exact opposite of his weaknesses. His strengths are the positions that I consider to be less important: quarterback, tight end, kicker, and defense. He's got it covered there. He's got Tucker, the best kicker, out. He's got the Vikings defense, who's really good. His tight end is Kelsey, who I'm not so high on myself this year because I'm skeptical about Kansas City's offense, but he's a stud, Zeus. And his quarterbacks, he's got so many of them. He's just set for quarterbacks. On the flip side, his weaknesses, wide receiver and running backs. There's not much to talk about there. He's got Baldwin. And then it goes, his next best guy after Baldwin is Joe Mixon. So it's not pretty. There's a lot of uncertainty there. I would be pretty concerned if I was the owner of this team. We'll see what happens.
For Travis, my MVP was obviously Mixon, just because he's got the most upside. You kind of know what you're getting with some of the guys in the team. And Mixon, I think if he can catch the ball and run the ball and score the touchdowns, he could be great for Travis. His strengths for me are 3 solid, obviously, quarterbacks. Now, if he's a good trader, he can make this work into something as the season goes on. There's no way all the good starting quarterbacks are going to remain healthy. Someone's going to get hurt. If he could make some sort of a move and put something together and trade away some of these quarterbacks. I've never seen anybody draft 3 quarterbacks. I think that's pretty crazy. So this is going to go to his weakness. So he's got 2 defenses and 3 quarterbacks. That is 5 roster spots. And that is taking up at least 3 bench spots for sleepers or breakout guys. I think he's really handcuffed himself by doing that. So I think the only solution is for him to make some solid trades to get out of this. That's it.
And he's got to do it quick, too. You can't hang on to these guys. I mean, I think last week he went to week 12 without making a transaction. He needs to move these guys because, like you said, it handcuffs your team. All right. Next up, we got Jackie versus Justin. So, for the beautiful Jackie, MVP, I have it going down as Jay Ajayi. She's got some good star power on that team with guys like Fournette and Hopkins, Evan Ingram. But again, this is the person who could potentially catapult that team. If the Eagles have a really good offensive line, if Carson Wentz can come back and be healthy and be their guy, they could have a high-powered offense again. And if they will commit to one running back.
You think Jay's going to stay healthy?
Who knows? And I don't even if he does stay healthy, I don't know how much. The Eagles like using a bunch of running backs. That's the concern. Ajayi, if you remember back to his Dolphin days, had some really talented and impressive stretches. If they give him he averaged over some crazy 6 yards per rush attempt last year, but it was on limited stuff and he had big carries. So if Ajayi can go ahead and get the commitment from the team to be the lead guy, to be the workhorse, and not lose catches to Sproles and goal line stuff to Corey Clement, if that team can stay healthy too, because if Wentz goes down and Foles reverts back to his old self, it could be ugly. You don't know what's going to happen in the NFC East. So Ajayi, if that guy can blow up, that will help her team tremendously, having 2 stud running backs. As far as strengths and weaknesses go, again, she's got another strong starting lineup. It's really balanced. She's got good running backs, good receivers. Evan Ingram, she got him for cheap. It's very good. The concerns or areas of improvement for me would be depth. Some of these, Crowell's a good depth guy, but Lizzie McGuire, Elijah McGuire, Ryan Grant, the Booker, those are just guys who, I'm not quite as sure about, not super convinced. And you can't necessarily have an entire team of stacked people, but there's room for improvement at the bottom of the roster. So.
For Jackie, first I think she had a solid first draft in the league, so I want to congratulate her on that.
Definitely.
I don't agree with Jay Ajayi. I just don't think he can stay healthy. I think Corey Clement is made for that job. But my MVP is DeAndre Hopkins. I do not think he's going to slow down. I think he's going to continue to have a great season. I usually wouldn't pick somebody like that, but I honestly think that he's going to be just as solid He never gets hurt. He's super durable. He's just even against Jacksonville, if you look at last year's games, he's had solid performances. He's pretty much matchup proof. So I think he's going to definitely carry her team. He's easily my top 2 favorite receivers in fantasy. For her weakness, I think she doesn't have much running back depth, and the Ajayi injury, because if he gets hurt, there's not really anybody that could come in and even take that spot. I mean, I guess you could say Booker, but that's probably early on. You don't know what's going on with Crowell, so I think she needs just one more guy to solidify the Jay injury, or maybe trade me for Clement. I mean, I don't know. Just hit me up in the DMs. We'll talk about it. So,
do you want to go ahead and talk about Justin? I've been going first for a lot of these. You can go ahead and lead into Justin, and I'll go after you.
Sure. For Justin, who I think has a really good team, my MVP for him is Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that right now Justin doesn't have that one as a receiver. I think Juju could really take the next step for the Steelers. He had a great rookie year. He's had a great preseason. He's just a really damn good football player. So he's in a fantastic offense. And the cool thing about it is he's not going to get double teamed. All the attention is going to be on Bell and Antonio Brown. So a lot of second receivers in the Steelers have always excelled. So that's my MVP for Justin. So his strengths are solid starters. And the weakness, like I said, he just does not have that one receiver, because Woods and Cobb right now and Juju, that's not a strong side. He needs that number one receiver to take him to the next level. So I think that's his weakness.
It's kind of funny. It's the first one you went first on, and it mimics mine the closest. So my MVP was also Juju Smith-Schuster. For the same reasons Kirill talked about, needs a wide receiver to break out. But if I had to choose someone besides him, I just kind of scanned through his team over here, I'd choose Mike Williams from the Chargers. For the same reasons as Juju. He needs someone to break out. Like, for me, his strengths would be his running backs. And he's got a strong team overall. But his weaknesses would be his wide receiver star power. So if you can get a guy like Juju or Mike Williams to break out and solidify one of those spots for him, that'll help him a lot.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a lot more for Mike to break out, though.
I agree.
Just because he's got a couple guys in front of him. Juju's already a starter.
Juju was my MVP, but if I had to choose somebody else just for the point of being
I don't know if he gets second choices.
I'd do Mike. I'm doing it. Well, you got one. 2 for 1. All right, next up is the Kirill and Donley slate. So, we'll start talking about Kirill's team. When I was looking to try and pick an MVP, I still haven't.
There's just so many great MVPs. You just want to pick the whole
There's
team.
nobody out there who I would choose as no, I'm just kidding. My MVP for his team is Corey Davis. I think that he needs. I'm not as in love with his receivers as he may be. Let's talk about his strength. Besides his money management skills, would be his depth. He's got a lot of depth, which will be able to allow him to be able to make trades. Right. His weaknesses is that he lacks a star power. But for a guy like Kirill, who's a cheap ass, doesn't like to spend money on players, likes to make trades, it fits really well. Spitzer said it last year. He said it this year. He says Kirill always has the shittiest team at the draft, and then he changes everything through a series of 10-plus trades, and we'll have a whole new team. So we'll see what happens. But Corey Davis is my MVP for that guy. I think Corey Davis could have a big year. I have him in my other league that we do, and I expect big things from Corey Davis. I think he'll blow up, and I think he'll help solidify Kirill's roster, unless he trades him.
Corey Davis is officially on the trade block. I'm using the podcast power to come get your MVP. Come on, come on.
What about you, Kirill?
All right, my team MVP is.
I know it's gonna be. It's gonna be Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake.
There it is.
Thanks for running it. I think Kenyon Drake is just. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna run a lot and he's gonna catch a lot. I think he's explosive. If he stays healthy, man, I think he's gonna be a top 5 running back in this league. I think he's like Christian. I think he's like Christian McCaffrey, but a better runner.
We need to get some kind of like the
Nope.
football show. We need some kind of water bed.
Now, my weakness, God, I mean, Will Lutz. I mean, I guess he's I don't know. No, my weakness is that I just have a lot of unknowns, right? I have an unknown with Peterson. Like, is he still okay, or is he going to retire in a week? And Njoku, he's unknown. Henry, is he going to step up, take the job? Drake obviously does not have a lot of time in the league. He hasn't showed much. Clement, is he going to surpass Jai? Benjamin, is he going to stay healthy? Safarian Jenkins, how's he going to fit in the Jack? I just have a lot of unproven guys. I think I have a lot of risks on the team, so I think that would be my weakness.
Okay. Let's talk about the new baby daddy, Donnelly. So, his team, we'll come back to MVP. His team is running back heavy as shit, which is good. I mean, in a league like this, running backs are key. Running backs are worth more than wide receivers. He's got a running back heavy team, and that gives him a lot of good trade bait. So he will be able to make some moves if he wants to solidify it, which is probably what he'll need to do because I think he's got the worst group of wide receivers in the league. They're not like Kenny Stills and Rashard Matthews. He's hoping on those guys to be able to take good games that they've had before in the past and put it into good seasons. Like, I don't think Matthews isn't going to be the one on his team, in my opinion. Stills, I don't know. He's good if Matt Moore's your quarterback because that guy likes to throw him a ball, but I'm just not very convinced, but his running backs could be enough to hold him. With that being said, my MVP for him is Keelan Cole. I think Jacksonville, with the injury to Marquise Lee, has opened a spot for one of the big three.
Man, he was already the starter. Lee was trash.
Either him, Dede, or Moncrief's going to get a big boost. I had Keelan Cole last year. He finished the season really impressively. I think Keelan Cole has a chance to blow up, and if you can get someone like that, he needs a receiver to blow up to go with his. You know what he's going to get from his running backs. His running backs are pretty solid, pretty solidified. Outside of the wild card, that's McKinnon, but that's his flex running back. Like, let's see what happens.
MVP Corey Davis is available, my man. I got you. What
happens with Keelan Cole? If that guy starts off strong, he might be able to finish strong, and that could help carry his team.
All right, my MVP for Donnelly is Keelan Cole as well. I actually have no doubt that he's going to have a great season. I think he's going for over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns.
And he's currently on Donnelly's bench.
No, that's going to change. Donnelly likes to do that shit anyway, where he doesn't start anybody until there's literally a minute left before game time, and then he puts everybody in the starting lineup.
It's true.
Does it all the fucking time. So obviously his strengths are running backs. I don't need to say the same thing twice. Weakness is wide receiver depth at this point. Yeah. But he clearly has. His team is a
pretty easy one. His team's a pretty easy one to identify strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
So. Okay. Next up is Hoppy versus Erica. All right. Well, my thing that I've been trying to do for each of these teams is identify who's going to break out, and I don't. No joke. I don't see a breakout guy on Hoppy's team. I really don't. So my MVP is his best player, Le'Veon Bell. He needs Le'Veon Bell to not get hurt. He needs nothing weird to happen. Le'Veon Bell, I doubt will get re-signed by the Steelers. He'll probably be a free agent. The Steelers probably run him into the ground. He just needs Bell to stay healthy. Because if Bell stays healthy, Bell's a beast. And he needs, in addition to Bell staying healthy, he needs Big Ben Roethlisberger to stay healthy too. Because Bell does a lot better when Big Ben's out there. So he needs those guys to stay healthy. And then, his strengths would be he's got big playmakers like Bell and Julio Jones and Tyreek Hill. But again, his weakness, and even Deshaun Jackson, who used to be a big playmaker, but I think the ship has sank in Tampa Bay. So, his weakness is a lack of depth. So, no young, exciting guys on that team, unless you're going to count Tevin Coleman. It's the old man's club. We'll see what happens.
For Hoppy, my MVP is Tyreek Hill. I think last year he became a fantasy star on my team. I think this year he's going to become a fantasy superstar. I think him combining with Mahomes, strongest arm in the league, and Hill having the fastest speed in the league, I think
They're just going to work so well together. Hill already leads everything in preseason. Mahomes just loves throwing it to him. So that's my MVP for him. So his strengths are his receivers, Julio, Hill, and then his weakness is he literally has no bench. Like everyone in his bench besides Connor was his handcuff. I would drop right now. If I could have access to his computer, I would literally drop them all right now. There's not a single person I would keep. But his starters it's a good team.
Yeah.
Just work the waiver wire, bro.
I'm more, or don't. Just leave the guys out there. It's a big team. So, yeah, I just tend to be more skeptical about Pat Mahomes in general. We'll see how he does. I wish him well. I like him, but we'll see. Okay. Then you have Erica, who I think is one of the strongest teams in the league. My MVP for Erica is the Minnesota offensive line. It's not an individual person on their team. It's a Minnesota offensive line. Because she's got 2 Vikings players who I think will depend a lot based on how well that unit holds up. Last year they did well, but I don't think they're necessarily highly talented. They just gelled well as a unit. So if they get some injuries or go down, I think she could be in trouble. Like Delvin Cook, I think Delvin is super talented. I had him last year. I was devastated when he got hurt. If that offensive line will protect well and hold up for him, he could have a beast year. Diggs is a guy who, he's good making short routes, but he can excel when he stretches
He's
the
a
field
playmaker.
and long plays. In order for that to happen, he needs the offensive line to hold up and give him time to do that. But if the offensive line can do that, watch out. Her team it's really good. Overall strengths would be wide receivers and depth, and her star running backs. Her concern would be that she has a decent amount of unproven people. Pat Mahomes, like I've been mentioning earlier, I'm a little shaky on him. He could be huge. I don't think there's going to be much in between. He'll either be good or bad. But he's got Andy Reid, so we'll see. But guys like Mahomes, Delvin Cook, I love him, but he only had 3 games. Trey Boo Boo Burton, who everybody loves this year, but he hasn't produced on his own, really, outside of a couple games with Philly. What will happen in Chicago? We'll find out.
So I think Erica definitely did a great job drafting. My MVP for her is Trey Burton, and I'm picking him because looking at the starting lineup, I was like, wow, great kicker, great defense, great starters everywhere, quarterback, wide receiver. Trey Burton is really the only unknown with Mahomes on that team, and I think this is Trubisky's second year. A tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. Trey Burton, he was on the Eagles, so obviously I'm familiar with him. He's definitely has the talent. If he can have a great year for her, this team is going to be extremely hard to stop. Her strength is obviously her entire starting lineup. I like that she picked up Eckler for Melvin Gordon, because in my opinion, I always thought that Gordon kind of gets hurt. Eckler is one of the best backups in the league, so to help out that Gordon position that she spent and invested money on, I think is great. Her weakness is she just doesn't have any depth, especially at running back. It's just T.J. Yeldon. So I guess if Fournette gets hurt, he's not really usable. She has some solid receivers like Crowder, and I think Dede I like a lot, but I think if she could turn one of the receivers into a running back, maybe just like a PPR guy, her team would be really, 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 really good.
Yeah, because I like her wide receiver depth a lot. I think that's very good. But like you said, if Cook goes down, she's in trouble at running back. She needs to potentially look at doing that just to brace against potential.
I mean, that's most teams too, though, In a 14-team league.
No team's perfect in a 14-team league. No.
Yeah.
Okay, next matchup. The Battle of the Cul-de-Sac. David versus Pat. So we'll talk about David first. For him, my MVP for David's team, and there's actually a decent amount of candidates as far as guys who could break out. I have it being Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman, running back for the Denver Broncos, rookie year. He's been building. There's been a lot of hype surrounding that guy lately. He's kind of come out as, the number 2 rookie running back to own outside of Saquon Barkley. We'll see what happens with Denver. Denver's got some changing parts. New quarterback. There could be turnover at wide receiver this year from the old guard to the new guard. So we'll just kind of see what happens. There's a lot going on in Denver, but Royce Freeman has the potential to be, he could be kind of like a Fournette, not necessarily a big catcher, but a bruiser, a guy who can go in there and get a lot of runs and make plays happen, and that may be able to help catapult him over. His advantages is that his team it's a touchdown machine team. Guys like Adams and Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson, Jimmy Graham, Marvin Jones, Kareem Hunt. Those are big playmakers who get the big plays or in Jimmy Graham's case, the 5-yard touchdowns. But it's a touchdown-centric team. So his team may be more volatile from week to week because they don't necessarily have a ton of receptions and a ton of stability. So he may have a lot of boom or bust, which is exactly his weakness, his volume concerns from some of his guys. Will they get enough catches? Will they get enough receptions? Will Marvin Jones fall off the face of the earth? Who knows? We'll find out.
For David, my MVP is also Freeman. As Mike mentioned, he's very talented. He definitely is the best running back on that roster. I think the Broncos' offensive line has gotten a lot better over the last 2 seasons, and they need the running game to get going. They really do. And hopefully Keenan could spread the ball around where it's going to open up some running lanes for Freeman to go. I think David has a top 5 team. That is just definitely without a question. His strengths are really good starters and really solid wide receiver depth. I mean, this guy's got receivers for days. The only concern is he's got no running back depth, like at all.
Welcome to almost everybody in the league except Donnelly.
I mean, he's got Kelly and Powell.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's tough. It's tough in a 14-team league.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next up is Pat. My fantasy MVP for Pat is Shady McCoy.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh yeah, it's Shady, baby.
Oh, I hate that pick.
Because here's the thing: is you don't know, right? The Bills might be the worst offense in the league this year. They might be, and I have Shady in my other league. I'm hoping that it won't be bad, but the advantages with him is that if he can stay healthy, which is questionable, he should get a lot of volume because it's not a very talented team. There's not a lot of skill players. Like it's fat Kelvin Benjamin, it's Charles Clay, Josh Allen's always running for his life. The offensive line sucks. The defense isn't that good. Like they need someone. And if they can stay somewhat relevant, my concern would just be, as it gets towards the end of the year, will they still be in playoff contention? Will he still continue to play? But
dude, they're already out of playoff contention.
No.
Yes,
they're not. Here's the thing.
Rookie quarterback, no line.
Here's the thing. For $31, if Shady can be a volume guy and be productive off his touches like he was to start last year. Last year he started off fantastically. He was a stud. If he can recapture some of that for $30, he might be one of the best drafts he might be one of the best picks of the draft. He might be. Or he could be absolute hot garbage.
I think we've gone on too long.
He could be absolute hot garbage. We'll see what happens with Shady. I don't know.
That's what
I don't know. Pros of the team is he's got his star powers. He's got Gurley and Brown. Those are the obvious studs. The weaknesses is his bench is disgusting. It's not pretty. It's not good. There's a lack of depth. He was on his $1 bids after his 5th player. So it's going to be tough. It's going to get a little ugly down there. We'll see what shakes out as the year goes on.
I have Gurley.
You chose Shady too, didn't you?
Oh, no. I chose Gurley as his MVP. Gurley had a great season last year, and I think he's going to continue to be productive in that offense for the second year for that head coach. I think Gurley's just really good, and I think Brown and Gurley are going to put up so many points. It's going to keep Pat in games while waiting for guys like Ross to break out. And then he just needs to find, I think, some sleepers that could do something. Because right now, I guess I like Dorsett and Ross, but there's not really a running back on this team on the bench that could do anything because Kelly's a backup to Gurley. And that's literally the only other running back he has. So if something happens to McCoy, he's literally starting 2 running backs on the same team. So that's his weakness. His strength is definitely Antonio Brown and Gurley, arguably the best running back, the best receiver in the league. So, I mean, they'll keep him in every game.
Yeah, it's a very front-loaded team with studs and duds. So right now he's got Brandon Marshall starting, and that guy's career ended 3 years ago.
Right.
All right, so final 2 teams to review. I feel like we should leave Vice's for last, just considering he won last year. And maybe he made it past the 20-minute mark of this video and is still listening. So we'll start with Jeremy's, and then we'll finish it off with Vice's. My MVP for Jeremy's team, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Krill as well, is Kerryon Johnson. And in addition to Kerryon Johnson, it's the Lions coaching staff. Kerryon Johnson is, in my opinion, the most talented running back on that team. And when they turn to him, he'll be a very productive and great running back for the team, which Jeremy desperately needs because his running backs are a huge concern right now. He's got stud wide receivers from years past. So AJ Green, I had him last year and he was just not fun to start. Mike Evans, who I had him 2 years ago when he was fun to start, and last year he was not fun to start. Tampa Bay's kind of a mess. Larry Fitzgerald, he's got good players on teams that will probably all finish under 500. So he needs someone like Kerryon Johnson to start and start soon. And that's really going to come down to the Lions coaches and when they decide to turn it over to him.
Yeah, so for Jeremy, I think his strength is definitely the wide receivers. His MVP for me is Mike Evans. Just because I honestly believe in him. I think he is really in his prime as a wide receiver. I really don't think it matters who's throwing to him. And Winston's going to come back. I know a lot of people are throwing shade at Winston, as they should, but I think he's going to come back hungry. He's going to want to prove something, and he's going to air it out to Evans. I think Evans could have a really strong season. I know he didn't have the best season last year, but if they get the running game going, I think that could be his MVP in my opinion. His obviously strength are his receivers. His weakness is just a lot of unknown running backs. Mike knows I'm not a fan of Burkhead. A lot of people like him. I just don't care for him at all. Kerryon Johnson will not do probably anything until later in the season. Abdullah is in the same team as Kerryon, so you're hoping that he's going to get traded to a team that he's actually going to be producing
or cut. He might just get cut.
Yeah, Johnson the second. He's not even starting right now, so also, you got to wait till later in the season. Thompson, I like Thompson. I think he's if he stays healthy, he's just an absolute PPR machine. So he could literally be his best running back. He just has to wait and see what happens with his guys later in the season. But Evans and Green and Olsen and Fitz will definitely, and Breeze obviously will keep him in games.
I was going to say, it's worth noting, too, he has Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson, so he's set at quarterback.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
He's good there, and it's going to be a question of whether or not his wide receivers and tight ends, who are all really good players, are not.
If Ronald Jones and Kerryon strike, easily a top 5 team.
Oh, yeah. Because he didn't spend a lot on these guys. Like, Green and Evans were relatively cheap, and so was Fitz. He got good deals. We'll see what happens.
All right. Who is your, we're almost at 45 minutes.
It's Vice. It's Vice.
Oh, yeah.
Vice. We got to talk about Vice. We got to talk about Vice.
Yeah, that's what
the champ. All right. So, Vice, your MVP, if you're still listening, hopefully it's a long car ride home for you, is Lamar Miller. That's my MVP for him. I bet Krill won't pick him because Krill hates old running backs. So, even though Lamar's really not that old, he just feels like he is. But if you look at Vice's team, his pros would be his wide receivers, Thomas, Thielen, Juice, that's Jarvis Landry. Those guys are good players, and they get a lot of receptions. Can they get in the end zone? We'll see. Thomas had an off year with touchdowns. Jarvis had an up year, but now he's on the Browns, and I think we'll throw less. So we'll see what happens. But his, concerns would be amount of touchdowns those receivers actually produce, and then his running backs are trash. It's just not very good. Lamar is his best guy. That's why he's my MVP for him. because he needs Lamar to stay healthy, be productive. He needs Deshaun Watson to be the same beast that he was last year. He needs that Houston offense.
Deshaun for Lamar, yep.
Yeah, he needs that Houston offense to be a top 5 offense so that Lamar Miller can be a beneficiary of that offense and just produce, not off talent, but off of volume and opportunity. Because I don't think Lamar Miller is the guy who's going to do it on talent. It'll be on opportunity that he succeeds nowadays. So,
for Vice, my MVP is actually Lamar Miller, Michael.
Oh!
It's just because
There was nobody else.
Watson was healthy, Lamar actually was successful in those games because it opened up the lanes because Watson and Hopkins and Fuller were just going absolutely nuts. And he can catch the ball. That's pretty short and sweet. You know what you get there. Now his weaknesses are obviously his running backs. He just doesn't have any running backs you could look forward to. I know he knows that. If this was like a team that I didn't know, I'd be pretty worried. But Vice, he hustles. He's a hustler. That's why he was a champion last year. You do not sleep on Vice. Now, I'm going to transition this into my least favorite team or team that needs work. Okay, Vice is my team that needs work. Now, I'm not throwing shade at him because I'm giving him respect that I'm not worried about this team because he's going to make something happen. He makes trades. He picks up free agents. He does not sleep. He's one of the most active owners in the league, and I think his team's going to look a lot different. It's just I had to go with my least favorite one is because he's just got a lot of unknowns at running back. No depth, no sleepers. Cousins with a bad offensive line. Thielen just got hurt yesterday. Landry on the Browns. I mean, that kind of scares me a little bit. I know everybody's been watching Hard Knocks, but that is my pick of the team that needs work, and I'm sure he would even agree with me himself. Who is your team that needs work?
My team that needs the most work, and it is a stark contrast to yours, to a degree, would be Travis's. I think anytime,
what a shocker, Mike!
Yeah, right? What a surprise! As I laugh after each quarterback that goes to his team. Anytime you draft 3 quarterbacks and 2 defenses, I just don't know what someone could be thinking about that. And it's one thing if you do that and you're known for trades and making moves, but when you don't tend to be as active of an owner and you sit back more and just kind of keep the same lineup for 10 plus weeks in a row, I'd be a little more concerned because you're not going to be able to get the value out of being able to take those guys and trade them and move them and make that team better. Because Travis could take his team and make it a lot better. He definitely could, and I hope he does. He was, and as I say this, he made the first trade of the season with Kirill, so that's a good step. That's a good sign. I hope it goes well for him, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him because he needs to overturn that roster and get some better guys on it. All right, so best teams. You want to go first? You want me to?
I'll go. I think the best team, in my opinion, after looking at everything, I'm going to go with Donnelly's team. And that's probably because I'm literally in love with Donnelly. No, I love his I'm in love with his running backs. A lot of people that know me, I love Zeke. I love Barkley. And then you add McKinnon to be his trifecta and the flex. I mean, that is just so powerful. Cook, he's a solid tight end. Carr loves throwing it to Cook. I don't like Matthews. Stills, he's actually pretty solid. I don't personally like him, but I know he can produce. And then he's got Sony Michel. I think that could be his 4th big-time running back. And he's got Penny, who's another sleeper. And he's got Cole as a receiver. I think what he's eventually going to do is move one of the running backs, Sony Michel or Penny or McKinnon, and get another receiver. I just think that team is loaded with sleepers, loaded with running backs. In my opinion, running backs are most important, and it doesn't hurt to help Gostowski, Texans defense, and Cam the Man, Superman, leading the charge. So that's my pick.
I bet you his first running back he trades is McKinnon. I think he's going to take somebody who has a little bit higher value and trade him, and then let one of those younger guys blow up and become a solid member of his team. But I guess we'll find out. Yeah, Donna's got a really good team. I had a tough time deciding between two teams as far as my best team. It was between Justin and Erica. And I decided to make a pick, Krill. We've been doing this podcast for an hour, so it's time.
You picked one.
Yeah,
okay.
I did.
All
I
right,
did.
that's
I decided I'm gonna go with Erica's team. I like a lot of players. If I could take my team and trade it straight up for Erica's team, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wow.
I like her team. I think it's got a lot of players, so I'm excited.
Hold on a second. She's married to me, right? Not you.
Yeah.
You're with the.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I just didn't know. You got confused during the podcast.
Out of all the years, Erica's been in the league. It's definitely her best draft. I like it. Every year, Erica makes the playoffs, and most years I'm just baffled. I don't understand how. Like last year, the guy she drafted, I absolutely hated. I don't like Hopkins. She drafted Hopkins last year, and he blew up and was great with Deshaun Watson and other guys. Like it just, in previous years, I haven't been able to see her team and how it can go, but she always has success. This year, I see it, which probably means it won't happen, but I see it. I like it. Guys like Melvin Gordon and Cook, I think, are fantastic. Diggs could have a great year. Emmanuel Sanders is great value. Trey Boo-Boo Burton, I think, could be easily a top 5 tight end. Pat Mahomes, we'll see. He's either going to be great and she'll keep him, or he'll be bad. She'll drop him and pick up somebody else who's out there. You don't need to trade for a quarterback, Travis. You can pick up guys up free agency. So I think she's got a really good team, and she slightly edges out Justin just because she's got some good depth there too. So that would be my choice for best team. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and conclude it. We've talked for quite a while, and this will probably be, in all honesty, the longest of the podcast because we're breaking down each individual team. But we'll call it our draft special. It's probably going to be one of the most fun drafts, or one of the most fun podcasts to listen to too. So we hope you guys made it this far. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we'll be looking at going ahead and kicking off a week 1 preview. So we'll look at some of the matchups that are coming up, kind of run through and give our predictions as far as who we think will win each game and go more from there. And then we'll get into more mailbag stuff, because this is long enough. We're not going to do anything right now. So, Vice, you can figure out which one of your wide receivers to trade away. We won't help you with that. Krill, anything you want to say?
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you stayed through this whole thing, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate it. I'm sure some of you just wanted to hear about your teams and some of your buds. So, like I said, me and Mike would definitely put in a lot of thought into this. And as this goes on, I'm sure our production's going to get a lot better. It's just hard to, invest money and purchase all these things if we're just complete garbage, or you guys aren't interested, if we're just making a bunch of crap up. I honestly think that we're very knowledgeable. We put in a lot of time and effort into this. We don't just turn on our Skype and just say, okay, man, let's just do this. We sit down and prep. Today we prep.
Although you did want to do that. And then
I did.
Oh, let's figure this out.
Today we did prep for over an hour, and now we're an hour into this. So, this took over and that's not to mention the phone calls that we've had, talking about what we're going to talk about. So we definitely put in a lot of time into this. We would definitely love your feedback. So even if it's negative, don't be a fucking asshole. But, if you want to give some feedback saying, hey, you should do this or this, or if some of you have better experience with production like green screens and other things that go on the microphone, we'd love to hear it. We want feedback, right? Don't just... It's okay.
Right now I'm talking out of this headset. Yeah. Eventually we'll get mics and stuff. We'll upgrade this, but...
Right. I have my Yeti, which this is as best as it's going to get. I can't.
This is a startup right now. We'll get...
But thank you guys for tuning in on 8/29/2018.
Boom! Yeah. See you next week.